Mario, it's such a pleasure to meet you. I love what you're doing, and I know my listeners and viewers are going to be very excited to hear what you're doing. There's nothing like paying it forward and helping people in community. And I come from a background of working in the field of mental health, as you know. But one of the things we did in South Africa was bench therapy. And it was something that was started in Zimbabwe, and I continued it in my practice. I didn't start it; it was started in Zimbabwe. But it basically is talking about getting back into the community and giving in the community and that kind of thing. So I love what you're doing, and I'm not going to mess it up by explaining it. And I'm going to welcome you in and ask you to please just tell my audience and my listeners and viewers what you do and how you do it. And then we're going to dive into some really wonderful questions. And as everyone can guess, this is all about community and mental health.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Dr. Lee. Pleasure to be here and moving these things forward. I've been an impact entrepreneur myself for about 13, 15 years now.
Wow.
Is wanting to use my businesses as a force for good. And fortunately did that with my previous company, which is a water treatment company, purifying and making clean drinking water happen in Dominican Republic.
Wow.
And really, during the pandemic, we all have pandemic stories, right? And we saw the dependency on technology, but we also saw so many mental health issues arise because of that isolation. And so it really drove me to want to build community of change makers together and find a way where we could harness the power of technology and basically turn that into a way to provide more contributions to the world of nonprofits for the different causes, whether it's combating climate change, whether it's raising awareness for mental health issues, or just improving one's own health and physicality. And so fortunately, after the pandemic, I got married, had a kid.
Oh, well done.
Thank you. And I'm now growing Knobl from Austin, Texas, and it's been very well received. And we're just pushing this message that we can all be change makers by providing absolutely different types of value, whether it's knowledge, whether it's donations, whether it's our own time and commitment. And little by little, this message is resonating very powerfully.
I love that. And so you have an app. I've actually got your webpage open at the moment. I've downloaded your app on my phone. And this app is really all about getting businesses and community I've actually written it down here. Let me make sure that I don't mess it up. You basically are B2B, B2C, so business to business and business to consumer. And it's an app focused on reducing turnover costs by 57% by engaging employees in doing social good. That was why I started with the community paying it forward thing, and they're leveraging tech and AI. Talk to me about the reducing turnover costs by 57%. What do you mean by that?
So, we were doing a lot of research, and there's been great CSR platforms or programs for a long time, but we've definitely seen that they're very linear or transactional in their approach. Now, what I mean by that is the companies realize the importance of giving back to the community, and they find foundations that resonate with their own personal mission. And they've sent donations to those nonprofits, about $25 billion annually in Fortune 500 companies in the US alone, which is incredible. Now,
it is
opportunity or element, exactly, and that they're not involving their employees or consumers in the process. So it's very much maintained with their annual shareholder meeting, but they're not really involving the rest of us. And that's the opportunity that we wanted to jump on as Knobl, where we provide a platform where companies still provide those donations, but they get to listen to their employees. What are the causes that they care about? What donations would they like to send forward? What causes or missions are extremely important for themselves? And go even further, where we actually integrate these APIs, such as Apple Health, where a company will say, we'll donate $1 million to the foundation of their choice if our employees and consumers anyway as well walk 200 million steps in the months of August to December, for example. So as a community, they're incentivizing the physical health as well of their employees and their consumers, while still donating to the causes that most resonate with them. And so we have found that from data and reports, employees resonate absolutely with doing social good, and understanding that Gen Z's coming into the workforce, they're all about purpose. They rather have a lesser salary, but make sure that they work for a company that's providing meaningful experiences and are socially responsible. And we're very fortunate to see that drive being pushed down, and that these generations that are upcoming already have a philanthropic nature involved within them.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. And that was actually one of the questions that I had for you was how can it help engage workers like Gen Z who are entering the workforce? And, you answered that question and it's one beautiful thing about Gen Z is they are philosophically on a different plane. They're very much about a cross-cultural acceptance and paying it forward and asking more questions and challenging the status quo. And so how have you found the response in the workforce, the Gen Z workforce to your app?
It's been absolutely remarkable. I mean, we've always looked at the reports, for example, that the baby boomers were seen as the giving generation. And they did do incredible amount of the donations given the wealth acquisition that they built over time. Now, at the same moment, we've realized that millennials, Gen Z might not have the same wealth acquisition as our past generations, but we're being determined as the new philanthropic era because of the nature that we already provide of wanting to do purposeful work from the moment they get out of college to the moment they retire as well. So everything that's being within tech, AI, they're just pushing the needle forward to give back to the communities, to give back to certain causes. And so Gen Z has just been fantastic to witness how they harness apps like Knobl, where they automatically understand it, realize the benefits that it has, and then ultimately start using it in a non-intrusive philanthropic way, but making sure that someone else across the world is receiving a donation or receiving an awareness, an intimacy, or a connection. And that's been absolutely inspiring to witness.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I totally believe that that's happening because I see it in the work that I do too. I want to get to at the end of this discussion, I'd love to get to how people can how the app actually works. But let's just dive in a little bit more. You've given us a brief introduction to your inspiration for this app. Can you go a little deeper? Because this is quite a big thing. I'm sure there's more of a backstory behind the inspiration to build this app.
Yeah, so I'll be completely frank. I was living a pandemic in Dominican Republic where there weren't a lot of people. I was very much surrounded by beaches and warm water, so I couldn't be complaining whatsoever. But in that moment, my parents came to visit me and my mother suffered an aneurysm.
Oh gosh, I'm sorry.
No, I mean, in the moment, it was one of the darkest moments. The hospitals were collapsed because of COVID. But incredibly enough, things turned around. She was able to survive it. We were able to get her chartered to the US, to Mayo Clinic. And myself, I found really that I was in this dark moment. I couldn't see a path forward. It was, 1 to 2 months that were absolutely, very, very harsh. And I just dived in and I was the same thing, just on the phone, binging movies, just kind of wondering where I'm going. The inspiration was lost. And that's really where the idea for Knobl started to occur, where it was starting to be born. I was still managing my water treatment company, trying to survive it, which fortunately it was able to do so. But it was entering into those depths really of that, the abyss basically. And fortunately, I got out of it. All of a sudden, I find myself married. I have a son. Everything turned around incredibly for myself. And I wanted to make sure that I could give back to the community as well, because I realized in those dark moments anyway, it was the friends and family that were able to reach out. It was just reaching out to people even on LinkedIn or via different social media platforms. And that collaborative nature, that intimacy started to happen. And I realized the power of community. And so I thought to myself, how can I just amplify that even further? And it became a purpose and a mission for myself to drive that forward.
I love that. There's a comment that you make about you talk a lot about the power of compassion and about how, this involves a lot of compassion. Obviously, reaching out and paying it forward and reaching out to communities involves a lot of compassion. You talk about that being a natural antidepressant, and that's actually research confirming that too. That's really great. Can you talk a little more about how you have experienced this, or how potentially maybe people using the app have experienced this? And if I can just also say a little bit more there, is I saw with my own patients and people that I worked with that were going through tough times, because you can help someone, but they've got to still make the choice to change. And so many of them said that the real shift occurred when they decided to go and actually help in a community, go and work with people that needed help and get out of themselves and get into helping others. And that flipped was that almost like that last shift out of that major depression. So I'd love you to talk around that in terms of your experience and feedback from people using your app and so on.
No, that's absolutely spot on. I think that to be able to help others, you really need to first help yourself. And that's something I realized early on. I needed to get myself out of that shift, reframe my mindset. And then once I was able to do so, I was able to find myself both again, mentoring others and still being mentored as well. And that helped me completely just amplify that even further. I was able to enter these communities, have those discussions. And within Knobl, we've been finding the same thing. So it's all about people wanting to improve themselves as well, improve their health, improve their physicality, etc. But at the same time, once they're doing that, they start becoming a lot more intimate with the connections that they start building. They start resonating with other people that before they haven't been able to realize that they're maybe supporting the same causes. A lot of these times we find ourselves supporting nonprofits or causes that are very close or important to ourselves in isolation. We don't talk about it specifically. Maybe you support veterans, or maybe you support mental health, or you're frustrated about our initiatives towards combating climate change. But the more you actually involve yourself discussing with other community members, and we've seen that within Knobl, the further you get to actually amplify that impact and you create more awareness between friends and family. And so definitely that's the heart of any community, I believe, is that collaborative nature. I've seen it with our own members and I've lived it myself. And so I'm always pushing that forward.
And so compassion as an antidepressant, that's a comment that you make. So you've seen that actually play out. Have people commented on that?
Yes, definitely. I think the best leaders, for example, have an empathetic driven approach. Mm-hmm. And I've found that myself. Compassion, gratitude, those are things that resonate absolutely with others. And once you lead with that servant mentality, that leadership mindset, not only do you allow yourself to become vulnerable when you're also facing tough times, and you allow others to feel compassion towards you as well. It's not victimization. It's just allowing yourself to be very human. Many times I feel that when you're in a leadership position, you try to maintain yourself as a solid rock and that you're completely navigating everything, knowing fully well where you want to go. I feel that once you allow yourself to have that vulnerability, people resonate a lot more. They feel relatable. You can identify with them and they're willing to help in so many ways. So that compassion gets really driven. And I think that it just makes an incredible moment.
I love that. I really love that. So, I mean, community really does play into our well-being. And from your first-hand experience, you've basically referred to that. But can you give some examples of how this community has played into well-being, maybe in your own life, and then also people that have used Knobl?
Yes, of course. So I always refer to that word isolation. I think that when you're in isolation, things get a little darker around you. You start to question everything. You start to question your own level of impact, if you're actually moving forward in the correct fashion. And so sometimes it's all about reaching out, having those questions, have someone to discuss with. This is something that I definitely credit to Adam House, that I've been discussing with a lot in the last few months, is that ability to find someone to mentor and allow yourself to be mentored. Mm-hmm. And so when you find someone that might be 2 steps behind you, it's fantastic to just reorient them, provide your own experiences. It also reassures your own learning curve. And you basically become accountable as well. And the same thing goes for when you're being mentored. And it's all happening within community. Someone else is having that opportunity. Someone else is having that opportunity to share their knowledge and for you to listen and learn from and avoid hitting or bumping your head various times. And so within Knobl, we've seen that even with different campaigns that we've been running, where we have even a somewhat competitive leaderboard. It's a very healthy leaderboard that people are competing with one another, wanting to see who amplifies further impact. But at the same time, there's a competitive nature that says when they're taking a challenge, for example, who walks the most amount of steps? Well, they're just getting healthy by doing so, but then they're interacting with one another and being accountable. Like, hey, we need to complete these amount of steps to complete the campaign. Let's get on it. Let's get on it together. And so it's wonderful to see that nature of collaboration, that assistance, pushing one another. And I keep living in myself because I join all the campaigns and I try to be competitive as well as much as I can.
That's wonderful. So it's a series of campaigns, if I understand correctly. And what's such fun is that, as you say, you're getting that physical fitness, you're getting your steps in, but that's one. Then the second one is that you've got the community because you're not doing it alone, you're doing it with other people. So there's the collaboration for well-being. Probably that's the first one. becoming, the collaboration first, then the physical second. And then the third one is that compassion, empathy aspect where you know that when you get those steps together as a team, then that amount of money is going to be paid forward to that, whatever charity they've selected to help others. So there's the philanthropic and altruistic and empathic being paid forward. You kind of hitting all three at once, which is very satisfying as a human. I mean, it's really developing. We talk all about psychoneurobiology on this podcast, mind, brain, body connection, the spiritual body connection. That's really getting all three of those going.
That's exactly right. And it's a wonderful thing to see, because we're at Knobl, we have this vision anyway, that we want to integrate all APIs within the platform. So we've been discussing a lot of physicality. I mean, you can do burned calories, you can do number of flights of steps taken, you can do even meters swam. So it's a lot of the physical nature that we realize anyway that provide a lot of mental health benefits. At the same time, we want people to have a very good time. We want to have people to just have fun. And so we've even integrated things like video games. People are even playing Fortnite now, and they're sending contributions to different nonprofits. So it's
I love it.
Yeah, it's been a wonderful experience. I mean, we've always associated, playing video games, you're sitting down, you're not doing much, etc. But we realized that it's also a way that people are playing together and that they're unified. So we said, well, instead of just playing that video game for those hours, then let it send contributions to their favorite causes. And now they're also feeling that positive effect. They don't feel like they're doing it in vain. And we're just helping them feel good about the normal activities that they do, whether it's that or listening to music on Spotify. And we want to just keep integrating further APIs into Knobl, even things like Duolingo, mental health apps, etc., because we just want to create a bridge between your normal everyday tech with philanthropy. And I think that allows us to become a world of 8 billion imperfect change makers, but at least working in unison.
I think it's absolutely brilliant. So I want to make sure people get this, that you actually can be getting your steps in. You can be burning your calories if you want. You can be playing those video games. You can be listening to your favorite playlists on Spotify. And if you're part of this Knobl app, you can be doing all of that, but you're not just doing that alone, those things are good for you. You're doing those in community with others. So you're bonding, you're having the deep, meaningful connection. You're doing something together. So important for a Wired for Love nature. And then on top of it, it's raising funds to help others. So there's the whole spiritual side, empathy side, paid forward community, which is vital for our functioning as a human. And it's a way that we can come together as a global community to be able to effect change. So, I mean, have I understood correctly what you're trying to achieve with the app?
No, you've understood it perfectly, Dr. Leaf. That's exactly right. And fortunately, it's been a very positive journey. We've been resonating with the B2B community because enterprises are realizing that this is a new tool that they can connect in a much more intimate level with their consumers as well. But also very importantly is that their employees are extremely happy, fulfilled in the workplace. We keep saying future of work, but it's very much present. Remote work is already occurring. And this is a way for their employees to stay engaged. Even when they leave the work hours, they can still be contributing to these different campaigns within Knobl that are being sponsored by the company. And so it's like companies donate, participants participate in the activities they love, and nonprofits receive the donation. So it's a circular relational aspect that is occurring for everybody to be feeling very grateful, empathetic, compassionate, and driven to move these causes forward.
Beautiful. Now, I want to just talk for a moment about the blue zones. And I've actually interviewed Dan Buttner on this podcast. And I mean, everyone knows about the blue zones, but basically when people talk about the power of reaching out to others, I'm just reading it over here, and being part of a community, the blue zones always comes up. I mean, this is inevitable, and it's so great. So what makes these blue zones important? What can they teach us about living a well-lived, fulfilled, and healthy life, in your opinion?
Yeah, it's incredible how they balance between health, having a good diet, having a well-balanced plant-based diet, or making sure that they're taking care again of their personal health. And two, they're always pushing forward those social connections, that level of intimacy, whether it's also within family or social connections. And that just leads to a much more fulfilled lifestyle. And so when you realize or have the right priorities, there are these ephemeral experiences that we can enjoy, which is only natural. But at the same time, we have to have that purpose. We have to have meaning and that empathy. I think that empathy is a foundational aspect where if you're driven with that, if you're driven with compassion, then everything else seems to fall in line. It seems to fall in balance. And that word shouldn't be a buzzword. We should really be pushing forward balance in everything that we do. And I think it's proven in those blue zones how well effective it has been for those communities. And that's what we've been trying to do as well with tech, with our applications, that if we can just provide that now to millions of people out there, then we can live a much more harmonious lifestyle.
It's beautiful. So you've incorporated some of the fundamental sort of philosophies of the Blue Zone into the creation of the app. Is that correct?
That is exactly right. We wanted to build it within the foundation so that it's absolutely essential for everybody to feel it automatically once they're engaging in the app. And so fortunately, we've seen that reception within our community members, and they discuss it with us personally as well, how incredibly enough they're still doing their everyday activities, but they feel much better for it. And they're making new connections and new friendships, new relationships that they didn't think about before. And it's happening naturally.
I love this. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And it's totally in line with how we live our lives. It's taking technology and using it for the good. And, there's so much questioning around, turn your phones off and switch off the technology and take a break from technology, and technology is bad. And yet and I keep saying it's not bad. It's how we manage it. The technology is phenomenal. I mean, and look what you've created a way of people connecting millions of people, not just a few thousand, but millions of people connecting in a way that we structured, designed, whatever you want to call it, to connect. Is that deep, meaningful connection, physically working out, getting our mental health under control, working as a community, and at the same time helping others. I mean, which is just everything that we need to fulfill as a human in terms of how we approach our lifestyle. And that's where the natural antidepressant and those kinds of things can come into play, which is so beautiful. So I just want to also talk to you. Comment on that. Do you want to comment on that? Go ahead.
I just loved how you mentioned it. Technology drives the how, but it's the change makers, it's individuals that drive the why. And so what you just mentioned absolutely struck a note with me very positively. I think there's been a lot of talk and well deserved about the introduction of AI. We have to remember that it's the human element that is driving it forward. And as soon as we maintain that, it's going to open up a world of possibilities. Technology ultimately has really made the world a better place if we just keep driving that human element forward and always make it impactful.
I love that. I'm glad you mentioned AI as well, because yes, there's been so many ups and downs and questions about that, but people keep forgetting that AI is always going to be, it's humans that are creating it, humans that are driving it, and simply creating the algorithms, and all that AI is doing is mirroring what we've already put in. So it's not like it's thinking for us. And I think that's what we've just got to keep hammering home, and using it to be able to create an app like yours. You've got to use AI because of the numbers that you're talking about. It's the same with us. The data that we in our data, we have to build AI into our app to be able to capture the data and analyze the data, because you'd need too many humans. But it's a pure algorithm. It's not a thinking process. It's an algorithmic process that enables us to be more efficient. I don't know if I've summarized that correctly. If you want to comment any more about AI in terms of your app and community and technology.
No, and I think you hit it spot on. I think AI is revolutionizing the social impact space in incredible fashions. It's revolutionizing the philanthropic space as well. And it's just not about being afraid of it. It's just about driving it or making sure it goes in the right direction, which I think that we very well are doing. And it's providing data insights that we never would have been able to recollect before. It's providing data and insights within climate change that we would have never had 60 years ago. And so all this data is providing us is a lot more information as to what solutions are that we need to present them. What are the problems that we didn't even think about before? And so I'm one to embrace AI completely. There are causes. That's something that we're doing within Knobl, for example. There are so many causes that people care about, but they don't know the foundations. They don't know the nonprofits. They don't know how close the cause is to their geographic location. How can they get involved? AI is making that possible, where you make those questions and they're, well, these are the list of nonprofits that are in your area, or these are the causes that you should really be paying attention to, given the heartwarming feeling that you're mentioning within your communication. And so it's opening up a door of possibilities to drive impact forward that before was completely impossible.
I agree with you. It's created an efficiency factor that we didn't have before. And if I look at it with just some of our data capturing, it'll take us hours with our research team to be able to analyze data. But with AI, we create the code and the algorithm, and then we can get that data analyzed more efficiently, so we can then provide a service that's more efficient. So it's not that the AI is giving the mental health support. It's actually just doing what we don't have to do manually. So increasing efficiency, as you say, to try and organize and coordinate geographical areas and finding out what in your area. I mean, there's so much data to be able to organize and analyze that per person. That is just an amazing tool to have. So it's the efficiency. And in this day and age, we need to, if someone's going to jump on board and get into this community mindset and this compassion mindset, you want to make it as streamlined and simple as possible. And that's also what I think you're trying to do with this app, is make this an easy process to participate in.
Thank you. That's exactly right. One of the things that we realized, for example, at least with nonprofits, they're already overworked. They're already feeling
Totally
low amount of resources. Exactly. And so all of a sudden, what's been one of the greatest solutions, AI, where they can actually do so many tasks in a much more efficient fashion, as you well mentioned, and not feel burnt out and do it in a better fashion. And so that's something that we're very much guiding them in the process of how to utilize AI to further enhance their efforts, because they might be understaffed. They are overworked. They're doing amazing things on the field. They're the heroes pushing these things forward, and they need a lot of support. And so that's something that we're very happy to help with or assist with. And the same thing, even with the corporations on the B2B side, we've realized that, they get a lot of, let's say, bad communication, that people are thinking, no, they're only out there to make their, profits, et cetera. They're changing or evolving, where social impact now isn't just an added benefit. I truly believe that now the business landscape are incorporating social impact as their core strategy. CSR is not just a lonely role now. It's literally part of the foundation as to how they're building their business forward. And the same thing, AI is helping them in that space anyway, so that they can actually be managing their workforce more efficiently. They can actually be collaborating with nonprofits in a much more effective fashion as well. So both in a nonprofit and a for-profit sector, we're seeing wonderful advancements with AI to drive that human approach.
Oh, I love that. That's really beautiful. Well, let's talk about this. Let's transition over to some of our last couple of questions, and let's get very practical. Let's talk about how, ways that we could use. We'll talk about the couple of aspects. We know about the loneliness. You've mentioned that already. And you've mentioned how the app can help with that, and then compassion as well. So let's get practical. Can you give us some tips on how you believe we can really get down and improve or help with this loneliness epidemic, and improve, really not improve, but activate that natural well of compassion that is inside every single human in a very practical way? So you can do this maybe by explaining how people can become part of your app. Give us some tips, however you want to handle it, but let's make this nice and practical.
No, I love that, Dr. Lee. So that's something that I'm pushing forward within my app, which naturally I'm very happy to be sharing within Knobl, how you can download it. It's free to use already on the iOS, on the Apple App Store. You download it, you create your profile, you make it, it's very much like a social media app, which makes it even easier and more comfortable to use. And automatically you start contributing, placing in content, following others, connecting with others in specific causes. And then you can just join campaigns. It's a very simple fashion. You see a campaign that's running live already. You decide, donate monetarily or do the activity or do both. So the level of social impact or freedom is yours to do. Now, if people want to be using Knobl as a way for them to amplify their impact, fantastic. At the same time, that's something that I'm pushing very much even within LinkedIn. I've been active on LinkedIn. I'm always telling people to do the same thing, but evolve from networking to building long-term relationships. When you stop using that networking terminology so much that we think that it's a little, oh, how do I benefit? Or I just want to make a connection to have more business cards. And you evolve it to really building long-term relationships, then you start really understanding that you're not going at this in isolation. You really start building those human relationships in a practical fashion of understanding how you can help others, how they can help you as well. And fortunately, I'm leading a philanthropy network, which is over 100,000 members on LinkedIn already. It's one of the largest groups for philanthropy. And we're doing the same thing right there. Every single day, we're just posting about social impact, that it is tough, that it is a challenging task to move this forward. And we need community to be able to do this in a very strong and collective fashion. So ask questions, get to know one another, put the posts. What are you working on? And so there's so many different ways that you can contribute. And that's what I've always been telling people. Don't be afraid of the word philanthropist. Don't associate it only to the Elon Musk or Bill Gates or Melinda Gates of the world. No, there's so much that you can do by yourself. Just contribute your own thought process, be a thought leader in your space, give your time, volunteer. There's just so many ways that we can give back to the community. And that ultimately will feel very fulfilling to yourself for doing so. And naturally, it'll feel extremely great for someone else who needs that voice.
I love that. So I really love that. I love what you a couple of comments that you made there that I'd love to highlight. And one is that networking has had a bit of bad press. It's been really for the last, I think probably 30, 40 years has been a word that is, okay, I'm going to network to get something. So it's never really a gift. It's very much just what can I get out of this? And what I've heard you say is that you've got a LinkedIn profile that people could go and join, and it's totally philanthropic. You've got a huge amount of people that are part of that group, and it's not just about, okay, I'm joining this to get something for me. I'm joining this just to be part of this community that I can pay it forward and help others and find where I can use my gift to help others. So you actually helping to shift people away from being very self-involved to being what we naturally are as humans, which is nothing wrong with fulfilling your own desires and dreams. If you don't put the oxygen on yourself, if you don't satisfy the essence and core of what you can do, and there's something you can do that no one else can do, then that's also frustrating. But when you are you, and I teach a whole teaching on this. That's why I'm so excited. I've written books on this, and I've shown this with my research. When you operate in your you-ness, you naturally want to give. You naturally are, your philanthropic spiritual part of you just comes pouring out. So on a practical level, you have created this LinkedIn page where people can dive in. So they can either do the app, which is brilliant because there's no obligation, it's free, and they can choose a campaign. If I've understood it correctly, they can go choose a campaign, or they can, and they can either donate or be part of it or both or whatever they want. There's no obligation. There's no cost involved. It's what they want to do. And then they can jump on your LinkedIn page and they can just see what's happening, build a network, see the community, see where they can join in and get drawn into this network that is one of giving and compassion. And in that way, there's this natural part of us is being activated.
Absolutely. And I think you just mentioned it. It's very much, I always apply it very much to the holiday season. I think that most people love to give or love to provide a gift more than they enjoy receiving one, for example.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Right? That's something that I've always found. I mean, I'm always looking forward to the holiday season or someone's birthday because there's also a self-fulfillment. I'm not going to lie about that I love how I feel when I see someone else smile because of the gift I just gave them.
Exactly.
And so that we're driving forward every single time. It's, listen, help someone else, and you're going to ultimately be helping yourself as well. And there's nothing wrong with feeling that. It's not selfish. Self-care is very beneficial.
Yes.
It'll help you forward, and it'll help you help others in the community as well. And so it's been wonderful to see, even within the LinkedIn group, within Knobl, people finding that addictive, positive nature of just giving without expecting something in return. And what you get in return is that personal self-fulfillment.
We literally are addicted to love. I mean, that's an actual fact that research has been done on. So Mario, my last question to you is, on a practical level, what is the sort of feedback that you've been getting on the LinkedIn page where people are just literally learning how to connect and communicate and see how they can offer their services to others? So it's really philanthropic. And you said it's grown enormously. You've got quite a few, I think you said 150 something thousand people in the group. What is the feedback that you're getting?
The most incredible feedback, actually, in all sincerity, has been the fact that people have a voice. They're seeing that the power of their voice now contributes in a exponential factor. And so it's something that we weren't expecting to see really when we were launching this. But it was that they were suffering frustrations where they wanted to provide value to the community, and they were a little hesitant because they always thought that donations had to be monetary. When they realized that you can contribute in multiple fashions, whether it's your time, whether it is your voice, they started to be very grateful for that, very receptive. They've been sending us messages about it. And so I've been myself very fulfilled to see that. It's been incredibly powerful to realize that they're making these connections. They're helping others. They're helping themselves by just getting themselves out there, having a courage to realize that their unique perspective is something that is extremely, extremely powerful to share. And a lot of people are benefiting from it. So yeah, it's been very inspiring and very motivating for us to just continue doing our work and pushing it forward.
It sounds like people's self-esteem by helping is being raised or improved by helping others. So it sounds like that's what your community that you've created is doing. So I encourage everyone to follow you and join this LinkedIn group and jump on the app. Where can they get hold of you, Mario? Where can they download the app? What are the details for joining the LinkedIn page, etc.?
Excellent. No, thank you again for helping us and pushing this forward, Dr. Leaf. I really do appreciate it. So you can download Knobl, spelled Knobl, on the Apple App Store. We are working tirelessly to get it out on Android and web. Hopefully by the end of the year, I will be making an announcement once we do. And you can follow me on LinkedIn, Mario Hernandez, founder of Knobl, and our Philanthropy Network group, which is over 100,000 members. The idea is for everybody to participate who is in the social impact space, trying to just push these different causes forward. And we're launching a community of the Philanthropy Network in November as well. So stay tuned. And the idea is for everybody to be collaborating, providing guidance, wisdom, and connections, and making sure that we don't go out this in isolation.
Amazing. As soon as the power of more than one come together, it's just incredible what can happen. So thank you so much for joining me today and for the great work that you're doing. And we'll have all these details in the show notes.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Lee, for having me again. I was very much looking forward to this talk. I was very much looking forward to meet you and very grateful for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to chatting to you about this too. It's amazing work. So thank you so much.
No, thank you, Dr. Lee. Again, here to support it any way that I can as well to push your mission forward, because it's absolutely noble, resonates with me. And I really do enjoy seeing it.
Thank you so much.